office or an arranged virtual meeting with that big client.
Buy airtime ahead of time with scheduled airtime service on MTN Momo. You can schedule your airtime purchase of any amount daily, weekly or monthly by dialing *170# option 3 and follow the process. Or simply dial *170*311# for a superb airtime purchase experience. You enjoy 100% bonus airtime anytime you recharge yourself with MTN Momo. Keep on talking with that 100% feeling. So, what are we doing today?
MTN.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. The news is live on Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra and Kumasi. We are on Love 99.5 FM. We are on Amenuveve FM in Aflao. We are on ATL FM in Cape Coast, Flow FM in Aflao, and then also on Jubilee FM in Keta. We are live on Facebook. We are on Twitter Spaces and myjoyonline.com. The Midday News is sponsored by Petrol Soul, your clean fuel in full quantity. Petrol Soul, always a delightful experience. Also brought to you by Duraplast Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC pipes and water tank. Where Duraplast goes, water flows. This afternoon, government and management of the Ghana Senior High School dismisses claims it has insufficient space in its dormitories after students were seen in a viral video using a toilet facility as accommodation.
Accommodation for students isn't a problem at all, let alone to force them to sleep in the cubicles that was showcased to the whole public.
We have details of that and also hear from the Deputy Ranking Member on the Education Committee who is backing an investigation into the matter. I agree that there ought to be an investigation because, as I said, the story, it doesn't add up. It depends on who you listen to. It has become the issue of the chicken and the egg. We're live on the ground where the Northern Regional Minister has been visiting the facility. Also, government says it is considering further expenditure cut as its trip to the IMF spring meeting is described as successful with assurances of a $250 million support expected from the World Bank.
The World Bank has committed $250 million to the Ghana Financial Stability Fund, and we do continue to encourage other multilateral development banks and bilateral partners. The ministry, however, also says ongoing talks with pension fund managers is consistent with the agreement signed with Labour when it concluded the domestic debt restructuring. Cocoa bills from Cocoa Board and also the government of Ghana US denominated local bonds and the IPP debts. Those are just, I would say, continuing work. We have details, and also Electricity Company of Ghana recovers 2.5 billion cedis out of the 5.7 in debt as the revenue mobilization team hits town today to collect or disconnect defaulting customers.
You cannot continue sitting down when you're owed 5.7 billion, which is equivalent of about almost $500 million, and you keep singing, we don't have.
We have details of that in sports.
Nanaya Wamponsa is unlikely to continue as the CEO of Asante Kotoko after the season, following a discord with the club's board chairman.
And cleaning of SIM card registry of unauthorized Ghana card registration begins today as the telecommunication companies say only legitimate cards will be allowed to operate.
Working together with the regulator, processes are going ahead to find ways in which we can clean the SIM registry so that if it says it's you, it is really you.
We have that and more in this afternoon's edition of the Midday News. I am Emefa Apawu. This is your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. Please stay on for details. Many thanks for choosing us. We settle for the details now. And this afternoon, government and management of the Ghana Senior High School is dismissing claims it has insufficient space in its dormitories after students were seen in a viral video using a toilet facility as accommodation. So the video showed mattresses, chop boxes and students in the hallway of the facility going about the activities. The video has since triggered anger and disapproval from members of the public appalled by the state of events in the school. However, However, the headmaster, Douglas Yakubu, said he had no idea students were using the facility as sleeping space. Here's his initial reaction to the issue.
I want to be fair. I cannot tell because I wasn't there whether he forced students to speak or he spoke to students. What I know is that he came in through the back door. Apparently, this school, our wall is not complete. There are areas that people just come in, they have turned into thoroughfare. They traverse the school as and when they want. So he came in through there. How he got to the place, I cannot tell. But when he finished, he came to my office. Let me give him that credit. He came to the office. He came and asked. He said first that we were into water, sanitation, and health. So through our conversation, he said he could assist the school. And I was happy. Initially, I thought it was an NGO. So when he said so, I got happy. He said, good, you can help us. Then he asked, do we have toilet facilities? I said, yes, we have. They said he saw 2 new ones over there, which are not in use. I said, that's true. They are not in use because we have not connected water into them. As soon as we connect water, they will be put into use. Then the question now was, do students sleep in the toilets? Look at this question. How can students sleep in the toilets? Have we converted toilet facilities into? We have never converted toilet facilities into dormitory. And I will reiterate this point. We have never, and it will never happen. We have enough dormitory facilities for students. A lot of it. We can admit more.
Well, the Ghana Education Service has commenced investigations into the matter, also asking the headmaster and the housemaster of the school to step aside. In a statement, the Regional Director of Education asked both the head and senior headmaster to do so, and the statement further revealed that the school could accommodate an additional 300 students since records indicated that students enrolled in the school were fewer than the vacancies available. We can hear from the Public Relations Officer of the Ministry of Education.
The Ghana Education Service felt like they needed to investigate this, get to the bottom of it. But of course, it was only fair that in the interest of natural justice and not to also disturb the investigation process or discuss it at the end of the day. The headmaster and the senior house master actually step aside because, ultimately when it comes to the management and administration of the school, it is within the prerogative of the headmaster. But of course, largely when it comes to matters of students accommodation and other things, it is also within the prerogative of the senior housemaster.
Let me take you live to the northern region, and my colleague Martina Bugri has been monitoring a press conference organized by the regional minister himself. First, Martina, let's talk about what you've seen at the school.
We arrived in the school. We first went to the building which this controversy is all about. I must say that I have gone through the building. We went to where the video was picked. There are boxes and some few other things belonging to the students in there. But when you come to the main dormitory, there are several spaces unoccupied. And so when I spoke to one of the masters, I was told that the facility can accommodate 120 students comfortably, but if they want to exceed, they can go 10 more people in that facility, making it 130. But currently they are hosting less than 60 in that facility, and so there were available space, and what we are being told can be true. Now we were moved to another house called Nkrumah House, where it's a facility and nobody was in that facility. We are told that last semester they moved those students who were there to a new Get Fund facility that was handed over to them. And so that facility is also empty. And so if they had accommodation issues, there are facilities that can house the students. And so what we are being told can be true. When the minister visited this morning, we went through the same facility and he addressed the media. He says that what is being churned out can't be true and is irresponsible.
We have come here, we have had a survey around the building, and that could not be true. It is far from being true, and we would want to make it clear to the general public that this was a blatant misinformation that was carried. But there were other positive things that the reporter could have reported on, because we have new facilities, washrooms and bath facilities that have been scattered around the I can see 2 on this side, newly built. in use. He could have reported on those things too, if he actually wanted to do a balanced reportage. But he chose to do a one-sided false statement and leave. Just, I don't know, maybe for want of his own expression, he decided to do that. And I would call it irresponsible journalism, and it should be treated as such.
Well, Martina, I'm sure you've been finding out if the school has so much space as you've been told. How do they explain what exactly we're seeing in the video? What were the students doing in that toilet facility?
What we are being told is that space is located for students who cannot travel with their boxes home to put their mattresses and boxes when they are on holidays. And so these students, that facility, they know accommodates boxes and not students. So what the students were there doing, they are unaware students were actually using there as a facility. I asked if they were not doing any monitoring, because if they were doing monitoring, they should know that the students were using the facility, sitting in the facility. What I was told was that they do monitoring, but when it is time for monitoring, all they find are boxes and no students living in there.
Okay, that's our regional correspondent Martina Bugri. Well, investigations have begun from the Ghana Education Service, and the deputy ranking member on the Education Committee in Parliament, Clement Apak, is backing that investigation into the issue.
See why any student would, on your own volition, if indeed there is adequate space in a normal traditional dormitory, would take your mattress and your chobox to go and inhabit a place of that nature. Right. So the decision by the Ghana Education Service to get the matter investigated, I think it's in the right direction. Disagree with the directive that the headmaster and the senior housemaster should step aside.
Well, let's now focus on the economy, and government says it is considering further expenditure cuts as its trip to the IMF spring meeting is described as successful. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta says the nation has been assured of a $250 million support expected from the World Bank, plus an expectation of receiving a major boost in its quest to secure an IMF program later this week. Ms. Ofori-Atta has been speaking at a news conference in Washington, D.C.
The sentiments we have encountered in DC this week have been quite overwhelming, with specific statements from the managing director of the fund and other senior officials. And in most of the meetings, bilaterals we have had, was also met with a great positive response. So there has been a tremendous show of support from the fund, the bank, and all our bilateral partners, and for this I express my sincere gratitude on behalf of our President Nana Akufo-Addo, on behalf of each and every Ghanaian.
Well, let's bring in Joy Business Editor George Riafi joining us live from Washington. George, so I need some clarity on this $250 million from the World Bank. When exactly is it coming in, and what is it for?
So, Emefa, I have with me the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, with me. And the question that you asked about when is this $250 million coming in from the World Bank? You first give us a wrap, basically, about how the meeting has gone for him, and then when exactly is this $250 million from the World Bank is coming in. Minister, just over to you, getting some clarity about, first, how has this meeting been for you, and when are we going to get the support coming in from the World Bank?
Great. Well, thank you very much. Good morning. I think really, and George witnessed that it's been phenomenally positive past week. We have had testimonies, in a sense, if you want to say that, director.
Well, Joy News editor George Riafi there interacting with Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta live in Washington, providing some update on this $250 million we're expecting from the World Bank. Unfortunately, we have some technical challenges with their connection. We'll try again and see if George is still interacting with the Finance Minister.
The debt program was a difficult one, but necessary. That gives us credibility to the Paris Club.
Unfortunately, it appears we are unable to hear clearly. The Finance Minister, George Riafi, will reposition the connection to him. But this is what he said earlier.
So crucially, the meetings have afforded us the opportunity to discuss the importance of maintaining Ghana's financial stability in the wake of the domestic debt exchange program. The World Bank has committed $250 million to the Ghana Financial Stability Fund, and we do continue to encourage other multilateral development banks and bilateral partners to assist the government of Ghana to secure the stability of our financial sector.
So that's Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta earlier. He's still interacting with my colleague George Riafi. Let's see if we have a better connection to them.
That's where we have
Oh dear. Unfortunately, technology will not allow that conversation to continue. George is interacting live with him currently from Washington. But George, he's also been talking about the issue of domestic debt restructuring, which still remains thorny. It's an issue that he's been clarifying. We also understand he insists that the particular debt restructuring, including the pension funds, does not constitute a new round of restructuring.
There is no second round of DDEP. What we know and that we are doing is that there were some outstanding instruments to work on, and that really was the cocoa bills from Cocoa Board, and also the government of Ghana US denominated local bonds and the IPP debts. Those are just I would say continuing work that since the DEP was closed, and those will continue until we get to an accommodation that makes sense for both parties. I think there was also discussions about the pension funds which we were excluded. We did indicate last time about the MOU that we had signed with.
Well, let's head back to Washington, D.C. This time, hopefully, we have a better connection to Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta and my colleague George Riafi. Hello, George. Pardon us, we had a terrible connection to you earlier. Please, if the minister can repeat himself.
Emefa, can you hear me now?
Loud and clear, George.
So, Emefa, I have with me the Minister of Finance. And first, Minister, there was a question on the clarity on the $250 million coming from the World Bank. And also for you, how has this meeting gone?
Right. Thank you very much. Good morning, Emefa. It's good to be speaking with you. I think, first of all, Emil, a response to the $250 million. We are establishing a stability fund to ensure that we can intervene in the event of any solvency and liquidity issues. The World Bank has committed $250 million of that, and we are still talking a number of donor partners, including the Africa Development Bank, for further resources. Government itself will put some money into that. We expect really latest by the third quarter for at least the World Bank resources to come through, working to accelerate Africa Development Bank and government itself's participation in that. So that's on the issue of the $250 million. In terms of the week, I think George will be able to testify himself. It's been a very positive week for Ghana. The fund is very comfortable with where we are. We are all looking in the next few weeks for the Paris Club to come in with their financing assurances. Pretty confident that everybody will come through. And the managing director of the IMF has committed that as soon as the assurances are in, they'll set up the board meeting, and we expect to get a quick approval from then on. So on the fund side, I think it's been a very good week. But beyond that was also the beginning of discussions with the Eurobond investors. We did an investor presentation and then met with their committee, and those are going well. I think we are setting up the rubrics of the discussions. There's some more information to be given to them by the IMF and the World Bank, and once that's done, I guess we will then begin negotiations on that.
Okay.
So those were two areas that went well. I think really a bit of news that might have died is the presidency of the CBF and the V20, which is a vulnerable 20, about 58 countries in which Ghana chairs, over 1.5 billion people. And this has to do with the Accra to Marrakesh agenda to talk about climate change and how best to have resources to support all of these countries which have the twin problems of the debt crisis and the cost of climate change going forward. And in those places too, we've done well. We proposed that the V20 and CBF become independent entities so that they can be supported directly by various philanthropic organizations. And that would be a real growth trajectory since 2015 that they were formed. So we are very excited about that one.
So there's a question about this second round of debt exchange program and pension funds and all of it. Let me get some clarity on that one, because the concern out there is that it won't happen. Now the concern is that it is going to happen.
No, I don't quite understand that twist that seems to have been brought to bear. We signed an MOU with the pension funds. I forget the date, in which we talked about exemption, but also to work together towards ensuring that sustainability. So those discussions are going on. With regards to the debt exchange, I think we all were aware that we hadn't touched the cocoa bills, and we also hadn't touched the dollar-denominated local currency bonds. And so those discussions are going on. So those are the two instruments that still need to be worked on, that we are working on. But it's not coming to the public or the individual investors, etc. on that. Yeah. So that really is how the situation is. Yeah. Thank you very much indeed. Appreciate it.
We're grateful. We're hoping that we could get the definite, answers to whether indeed the May deadline or the timeline that you've given will remain May.
The deadline for the IMF program that will be, are we working towards getting it in May, Honorable?
I think really one can be too presumptuous about that. We have literally broken all records with regards to this restriction. I think we need to recognize and acknowledge that Zambia has been at this for 2 years, Chad, Ethiopia, etc. We started in July 1st, and we're able to get in record time, get our SLA concluded, the domestic debt restructuring. Paris Club has already met twice and formed an OCC. We expect them within the next few weeks to deliver the assurances. And then we've been given assurance that the board will sit immediately, in which we get that. So I think really we should be excited about how fast government has worked and the receptiveness.
Well, so that's Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. We're indeed grateful for joining us here on the Midday News through my colleague George Uriafe. This is the Midday News. It's sponsored by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity. Petrosol is always a delightful experience. Also brought to you by Duraplast Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC pipes and water tank. Where Duraplast goes, water flows. We'll take a quick break. When we return, we have sports, and then Electricity Company of Ghana recovers 2.5 billion cedis out of the 5.7 billion cedis in debt as the revenue mobilization team hits town today to collect or disconnect defaulting consumers. Please stay with us.
Imagine say water wake up at dawn, no bath, no chop, where it vanish for your area for 2 weeks. You not get one drop safe inside your tank.
Hey.
Hajia, our life was in dangerous. Only our neighbor gets water with water tank.
Water tank?
Yes, water tank. Mamma mia, that water tank gets meter for checking water level. That water tank fine past Kumasi Celine Dion. That water tank be tough like Ghana Army. That water tank, they carry water pepper. So say some no go left inside the supply tank. What a tank! That's my boss, Mr. Poncho go talk.
Beautiful, durable, with water level indicator and accurate volume of water. Water tank. What a tank! By Duraplast.
Thanks for staying with us. Let's do sports.
Yes, Emefa, there is discord at Asante Kotoko between the board chairman, Dr. Kwame Che, and the club's CEO, Nana Amponsa. It is understood Dr. Che felt disrespected after Amponsa turned down his suggestions to make some appointments. The friction seems to have contributed to the team's poor performances on the pitch, with just 4 wins in 10 matches. My colleague in Kumasi, Steven Zando, has the latest on the future of Nana Amponsa with the Porcupines.
Nanayo Amponsa, the CEO of Kotoko, was given a 3-year mandate which ends this year, that is after the current campaign. But based on what has happened and is still happening at Kotoko, i.e. the growing dispute between the board and the management, which has occasioned a chaotic atmosphere at the club, it is widely expected that the CEO and the board will not continue their mandate when the season ends. For me, I'm not expecting the CEO to be fired before the season comes to an end, because that will only compound the problem, and especially with about 9 matches to go, it is expected that Amponsa and his management will get to finish their term, so then in the summer, the club will have enough time to get a proper replacement. But largely, here in Kumasi, most fans of Kotoko feel dissolving both the board and the management is the best way to resolve the current crisis.
So that's the future of Asante Kotoko CEO Nana Amponsa. That's your spot.
Thank you very much. Well, Joy News investigations have uncovered how the dire financial constraints compelled management of the produce buying company PBC to roll plans to restructure the country's biggest indigenous entity. Over the last 5 years, the company's market share have declined from 30.88% to 8%. In January last year, the management of the company hinted of downsizing its staff because it was unable to meet financial and operational obligations to its workers. In August, management issued a memo. It was unable to pay salaries to staff. There's more in our latest hotline documentary, PBC Troubles.
I wrote a letter to the presidency explaining our down-pending fortunes of PBC.
Johnny's visited 3 regions to engage with staff and the purchasing clerks of PBC. A depot manager who pleaded anonymity over fears of victimization expressed concern over the dip in PBC market shares. He said this had impacted the operations in the regions, citing their inability to purchase cocoa for the main crop season in 2021. According to him, the late release of funds last year to buy cocoa in week 5 of the cocoa season meant competitors had already made significant purchases.
It is true. Anyone challenging this fact is being dishonest. When the 2021-2022 cocoa season commenced, I recall we bought cocoa during February, and that was the last time the head office released money for us to purchase cocoa. We have been given money by Cocoa Board, but the cocoa is finished. Our competitors have bought a chunk of it.
This year, November, and some they were compelled to use their shirts and weighing scales to buy cocoa for competitors in order to maintain their customer base.
We were struggling financially. We managed to stay afloat from alternative businesses. Since money wasn't being released,
You can miss PBC Troubles on the Joy News channel later this evening. Now, the Electricity Company of Ghana has recovered 2.5 billion cedis out of the 5.7 billion cedis in debt as the revenue mobilization team heads town today. Well, they've taken their disconnection exercises to the Accra Digital Center over electricity debt. My colleague James Avegis with the team joins us on the line. What's the Accra Digital Center story?
Yes, so Emefa, they are owing some, we are told in the words of the PRO, some millions of cedis for which they have gone there to do the negotiations today as well, but that didn't go as the ECG would expect, leading to the disconnection. We can go ahead and listen to Fred Bembio, who is the PRO for the Accra Regional West.
Now we are here at the Accra Digital Center, and unfortunately, this is a place that owes We've been having conversations for the past few weeks, but they haven't yielded the results we wanted. So we are going to go ahead to resort to what usually is our last resort when it comes to our revenue mobilization activities. That means we are going to disconnect them.
Well, let's bring in my colleague Elton Brobe, looking at the debt portfolio for the Electricity Company of Ghana. What does it look like, Elton?
So, in fact, they say that they are collecting 5.7 billion Ghana cedis. They've collected so far 2.5 billion Ghana cedis. Now, the interesting thing about this is that ECG owe Power $600 million, which is more than what they are collecting so far. And they owe independent power producers almost $1.4 billion. So, what they are collecting is obviously a drop in the amount of money they owe other independent power producers, including BUI. But they say that they are going ahead to collect this, and this will surely put them in a better financial position. According to the ECG, 500 million Ghana cedis was used to offset debts of some public institutions, including 200 million cedis for Ghana Armed Forces, the Ghana Police Service, and the others, that's Fire Service and Prison Service. They are also considering 1.2 billion tax offset using the debt of some state institutions to clear debt tax obligation or the Ghana Revenue Authority. And I'm sure that in subsequent bulletins we can go into this.
All the details. Thank you very much, Elton. And in wrapping up of the bulletin, cleaning of SIM card registry of unauthorized Ghana card registration begins today, as the telecommunication companies say only legitimate cards will be allowed to operate. Also on my Joy Online, you can read the story. Member of Parliament for Medina has been discharged by the Kaneshie District Court over criminal charges brought against him over his role in a demonstration for better roads in his constituency in 2021. And like I said, there's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com. There are many more stories there. Akufo-Addo signs 3 new tax bills into law. We have Living Word with Pastor Mensa Otabil up next. I am Emefa Apawu.